Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. Menachos 13m. We begin a brand new Perek Sheni, so it's partway down the Amid here at the Mishnah. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Hakoyim etzes hamincha lechol shirah oy lahaktir koyim to lamachar. So once again, back to the topic of pigul. He does the kmitza on the mincha with the intent, the expressed intent, to consume the leftovers, the remnants, the shirayim, or to be makter the actual kaimetz on mizbeach in the wrong time, l'machar. That's called chutz lizmani, that's pigul. In this case, all agree it's pigul. Even Rabbi Yossi, who disagrees in the next part of the Mishnah, over here, all agree, Moida Rabbi Yossi bazeh, he agrees in this case, shu pigul. You've generated pigul, and there is kares involved if one consumes the carbon material. V'chayav al kares. However, suppose he's engaged in the kmitza of the dough, but he has a mind to process the lavaina. You see, the mincha comes along with flour, oil, and lavaina, the incense, the spices, which are added to the mincha, placed in the same kli, and then, just as you are makter the kaimetz, which is the scoop out of the dough, you're also makter the lavaina. So while he's doing the kmitza, he had a mind to be makter what? Not the kmitza itself, to be makter the lavaina tomorrow. So basically, he's engaged in one element and thinking about the other one. So the mincha almost has like two drivers driving it. Two matirim, two permitters, two engines. We have the kmitza of the dough, we have the kmitza of the kaimetz of the lavaina. They're both put on the mizbeach, they're both burnt on the mizbeach, and they permit the mincha for further consumption. So again, he was involved in the kmitza itself with the intent of lahaktir levanos lamachtir maktir lavaina tomorrow. Here we have a machlekes. When he was engaged in one element, thinking about the other one, Rabbi Yossi Omer, although it's possible because of his inappropriate intention, but there's no pigul. By kares, there's no pigul, there's no kares if one consumes the mincha. Chacham Omer, even in this case, it's full-fledged pigul with kares that comes along with it. V'chayav of kares. Amrullah, Chacham responded to Rabbi Yossi, why is this different than an animal carbon? So he does the shchita on condition to be makter the fats tomorrow. You're doing one thing, thinking about the other, right? Why is it different than doing the kmitza with a thought about the lavaina? Why is it different than a carbon where pigul is generated in this manner? Amrullah, he said, big difference, huge difference. By an animal carbon, it's all one entity. The flesh, the blood, the fat, it's one unit. And therefore it's considered all in the family. Amrlan sha'azevach damai, its blood, upsare, and its flesh, v'murav, and its fats, echad, it's one entity. It's coming from the same unit, the same item. So engaged in one, thinking about the other, is still considered in-house. Ulavoina inam as opposed to lavoina, which is not really part and parcel of the dough, a separate type of material. So it doesn't really get affected by any thoughts that occur while engaged with the actual mincha, with the dough itself. So the Mishnah had two cases. In the first, he did a kmitza thinking to eat the shiraim or makter the kaimetz tomorrow. Mishnah says, all agree, even Rabbi Yossi agrees it's pigul. Lamili lemisna. Ask the Gemara, why does the Mishnah have to highlight in this case, Rabbi Yossi agrees that it's pigul. What's the point of mentioning Rabbi Yossi? It's a universally agreed upon halacha. The answer is on account of the next halacha, which want to contrast. Mishum dekaboil. Since we were going to proceed with the next case, which is subject to dispute, what's the case? He's doing the kmitza on the dough. Tomorrow, we have a machloikas on this. Rabbi Yossi Omer, pasal ve'ebay kares. Chacham say it is pigul. So perhaps that would lend to some confusion regarding the first case as well. Why? What's the connection? Perhaps I would mislearn the next part of the Mishnah. I would misunderstand the halacha. I would say that the underlying reasoning of Rabbi Yossi applies to the first case in the Mishnah as well, and he disputes the first case as well. Why? Time with Rabbi Yossi, I would attribute Rabbi Yossi's opinion to the following reason. Because he holds, as we explained, the kmitza of the dough is one matir. The burning of the levine is another matter. right? Two permitters, two engines, two drivers of the mincha. So perhaps Rabbi Yossi holds pigul will only be generated if he had pigul thoughts while engaged in both matirin. You can't do it a half. You can't have a halfway. You can't have a machshava pigul only by the kometz and not levayna or vice versa. Time of Rabbi Yossi mishum kasava, because he holds ein mafaglan b'chatzi matir. You can't be mafagl. You can't make pigul. You can't generate pigul through only half the matir. In this case, it's levayna without the kometz or vice versa. And therefore, afilu reishanami. So even in the first case in Mishnah, that's exactly what he did. He was only thinking pigul during the kmitza, not during the burning of the levayna. So perhaps that's considered chatzi matir. It's inadequate for pigul. Kamash Malon comes the Mishnah and highlights for us. No, that's not Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Rabbi Yossi has no problem with pigul on a chatzi matir. The Baha Moida, Kamash Malon Baha Moida, comes the Mishnah and says no. In the first case, he agrees. So although the pigul only occurred during the kmitza, but since he was thinking about the kometz or the shirai, that generates pigul, despite the fact that it was only during the kmitza and not during the levayna. Whereas in the next case of the Mishnah, that we have a machlekes, because there he was engaged in the kmitza, plotting about the levayna. In that case, it's different. In that case, Rabbi Yossi disagrees. Okay, why? Let's see in the Gemara. Lahakti levnas lamachar. So he's engaged in the kmitza, planning on doing the levayna tomorrow. Rabbi Yossi Omer, pasol, yeah, but there's no pigul vein by karas. Amar shlagish, why? Omer hay Rabbi Yossi. This is Rabbi Yossi's reason. Ein mater mefaglas hamater. You can't use one mater, i.e. the kaimes, to be mefagel the other mater, the levayna. Each one is its own boss. Likewise, you would apply the same rationale to the two spoons of lechem hapanim, that two separate matirim. So if while engaged in one, you're thinking about the other, has no effect. Shei mater mefaglas hamater. Now why make a reference to this case as well? It seems like it's just a duplicate. What's the point of mentioning this added example? Perhaps I would think it's different. Time of Rabbi Yossi, you know why Rabbi Yossi says the kometz can't be mafagad levayna? Because levayna is one type of material and kometz is a different type. Mishum delav minna de mincha. It's not the same material as the mincha. Aval b'shnei bezich levayna, but the two spoons of levayna, which are both identically the same material, the minna de ma'adad nina, they're both the same material. Perhaps you couldn't spill over from one to the other. Eimah mafagad adad. Perhaps the pigul on one affects the other. Kamash one. Point is not. So now the point here is that Rabbi Yossi is not based on material types. He's based on the fact that halachically, the levayna is regarded as a separate element from the general mincha, therefore it's unaffected by the pigul thoughts that take place during the kmitza, if those thoughts relate to the levayna, right? So one can't affect the other. Says the Gemara, really? It's not because of material types? How could you even have this notion that in fact, time that Rabbi Yossi levayna, the reason Rabbi Yossi considers levayna out of bounds, is unrelated to material types. Lav mishum is not because the lav mincha de mincha, because levayna is a different material than the dough. That's why you can't be doing one thinking about the other. How could you even say that is not the reason? I'll prove to you that in fact that is the reason. Look at Rabbi Yossi's words, his own words in the Mishnah. Look at the next part of the Mishnah where there was this raging debate between Rabban and Rabbi Yossi. The Chacham challenged him. How can you say the levayna is unaffected by the kometz? Why is this different than an animal karm where you have different parts and they're all affected by each other? And he says, well, an animal is one entity. By an animal, it's all one entity. It's one unit. The blood, the flesh, the fats. As opposed to levayna, which is a different material. So clearly, it's material related. It's the material factor that is the basis of Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Says the Gemara, no. We have to relearn his words. What did he mean when he said Eina min mincha? The levayna is different than a mincha. Didn't mean material wise. He meant halachically. Eino be'ikov mincha. As opposed to the dough, which is one and the same with the kometz. Right? Unless you mock to the scoop of the dough, you can't eat the leftover dough. But the Levina is a separate entity. He has his own agenda. Even if you don't burn the claimants, you can still burn the Levina. That's what he meant to say. It runs its own track. And that's why it has its own status. Eino be'ikuv mincha. It's not bound to the mincha. It's not submissive to the claimants. The lav, kihechi, the ma'akiv lo claimants the shirayim. Because unlike the shirayim that get affected by the claimants, that are held back by the claimants, unless you burn the claimants, you can't eat the shirayim. The comment of love miskata claimants until you amakti the claimants on the mizbech. Lo misach le shirayim. You can't consume the shirayim. Hachanam, you don't say likewise regarding the levina unless you process the claimants. You can't process the levina. Hachanam akil levina. It's incorrect. Levina is his own boss. Ella, rather. Iboy, if he chooses high bakta beresha, he can bring the claimants first. Iboy, if he chooses high bakta beresha, he can bring the levina first. So basically, he's his own boss. So again, we see it's not a matter of materials; it's a matter of having halachic independence. Rabbanon respond by saying, "Well, levina is different. It's not so independent, like you're proposing. When do we say ein mater mefaglas hamater? That the pigul occurring during one mater's activity cannot affect the other one. Meaning, if while he's doing one mater, he's thinking about the other one remains unaffected. That's only like in the case of the brackets, bring the case of the two sheep, right? Two sheep with the breads on Shavuos. If you're doing shchita on one sheep, thinking about the other, it's unaffected. That's only true when these items, these elements, were not established in the same kli, were not bound together as one entity. But in the case of the levina, which is bound together with the dough in one kli, the ikbu b'chad mana, it gets established and bound together in the same kli. Kechad is treated like one entity, and it's inseparable. Okay, so let's just recap. We have a mincha where a pigul thought occurred during the act of kmitza. So if he's planning on being mocked to the terrorists or eating the shiraim tomorrow, that's pigul. But if he's planning on doing the levina tomorrow, Rabbi Yossi says, no, that's a separate entity. You can't make pigul like that. Rabbanan say, no, in this case, it's one and the same entity. Amar Rabbi Yanai. So, by the kmitza itself, there are 4 steps. Scooping, placing it in the kli, walking into the mizbech, and being mocked to it. What about the next step, which is levina? So after you do the aktorah of the kaimets, you're going to collect the levina from the on top of the dough and maybe makter on the mizbeach. The act of collection, is that considered an avodah? It has to be done; it's inevitable. But halachically, is it labeled as an avodah? Let's say a non-kohen does it. Omar Rabbi Yanai likut levina bizar apostle. Says Rabbi Yanai, what if a zar gathers together the levina in preparation for the aktorah? It's possible. Why? Which category does this act fall under? Like, what is it labeled? My time on Rabbi Yirmiyah, it's part of halacha. Because inevitably you have to do this. So it's an act of bringing it closer, so to speak, to the mizbeach. You bring it, offering to the kohen. Rashi says, actually, you might be l'cha kohen. Now the kohen has to walk less. Means to say that you're more closer, right? So this act of collection, offering it to the kohen, is really step 1 in the halacha, in transporting it to the mizbeach. Because Savar, he holds, although he didn't actually walk it by foot, it was just a gathering together and a reaching over and halacha shaloi b'regel shmo halacha. Even halacha without walking is considered halacha. So once it's labeled as halacha b'zar is psula. Amar Mariaf and Anam Tanina we find likewise in the Mishnah, which we learned the other day, that this constitutes an act of avodah. Zakla. So the Mishnah sets down the rule. Kol hakaimetz. If while the kaim is doing the kmitza, v'noisim b'kli, or placing the kmitza in the kli, ha'melech, or walking into the mizbeach, ha'makter, or burning it on the mizbeach, while any of these phases he's thinking pigul, it generates pigul. Now, let's break it down step by step. We know that in order for it to be considered an act of avodah, it has to sort of have a parallel, has to correspond to the avodas, to the primary acts of avodah that are found in an animal carbon. So let's take it one by one. Bishlem Koimitz, I understand that the act of Kmitza, which separates the Kmitza from the general dough, meant for the Mizbeach, Hanu Sheichet, that parallels the act of Shechita, which is separating the blood from the carbon, meant for the Mizbeach. Likewise, Moilech, walking the Koimitz to the Mizbeach, Nami Hanu Moilech, that corresponds to the act of walking the blood to the Mizbeach, Maktir Hanu Zurek, burning the Koimitz to the Mizbeach, that parallels the Zrika of the Dam on the Mizbeach as well. But what about the second act of Nesina B'Kli? Elonoisim B'Kli, Maika Ovid. Placing the Koimitz in a Kli, what type of avodah is that? Where do we find a parallel regarding animal karbanis? Well, simply you'll say because it's like collecting the blood in a kli. You can't compare. That's trickling down. This is being placed manually. It's a different type of event. Midami, how do you compare the two? Hasam by the blood, memela. It's trickling in on its own. Here he's taking the kaimetz and putting it in. It's a different act. So why are you considering it an avodah? Ella, apparently, because if you have to do it, it is considered an integral part of the avodah. Ella mishum, rather, the reason is since the kiva delay sagile, since it's not enough, so to speak, meaning it has to be done. You can't get away without it. Avodah chashuva, it's considered a prominent act of avodah. Al korchach mashvah like a kabbalah, so it's considered like a kabbalah. Although technically it's dissimilar to kabbalah, but in terms of labeling and status, it's regarded like kabbalah. Chanami, same thing with collection of the levayna, keeping le since you can't get by without it. Avodah chashuva, it's considered like an avodah chashuva. Al korchach. So you must say mashvah like it's considered like hoylach. It's part of the transport process to the mizbeach. And therefore, it's done by a zara. It's possible. No, says the Gemara, you can't compare. Perhaps collection of the levayna is not regarded as an avodah, although it's a function that has to be done, but it's not prominent enough to be considered an avodah. Regarding your question, why is placement of the kaimitz and a kli considered an avodah? Because it's comparable to kabbalah sadam. It's a parallel act. Adam kabbalah. And although this is trickling and this is manual, well, it's close enough. Regarding your question, there the blood is trickling in, here it's putting it in, well, it's close enough. And therefore it has that status. Michi, look, in both cases the point is to sanctify the content in the kli. What's the difference how it got there? Mali, memela, whether it trickled in on its own, mali kashakal rami, or is putting the kaimitz in manually, either way. The objective is the same. The event is similar enough to be considered an act of Kabbalah, and therefore it qualifies as a primary step in the avodah. Regarding likut levayna, who's to say that it's considered an act of avodah chashuva, that it would be disqualified if a zar did it? Okay, so we'll leave Be'ez Hashem the Mishnah and the Gemara for tomorrow. It's beginning of a new sugya, a long sugya. Okay, so we learned about the act of kmitza that takes place during the mice the act of pigul that takes place during the mice of kmitza. We learned one case in the Mishnah. We all agree that it's pigul. That's when he did the kmitza to eat the shirayim or to makta that comes tomorrow. Even though it's a pigul b'chatzi mater, it's considered pigul. In the second case, we have a machlokes. He's doing the kmitza on the mincha, thinking about the levayna. Here, Rabbi Yisrael says it's not pigul because levayna has a separate status. Chacham say in general we agree like by two sheep, but here it's been bound together in the same kli, and therefore it's considered one entity. Rabbi Yana is b'chadish. Likut levayna b'zor is pasul. Now in terms of the raya of Rav Mari, that was left a little bit hanging, inconclusively. All the best to you, Natzlach.